Welcome back, everybody, to this week's, well, it's not even this week's episode because this week's live episode's coming in like 45 minutes, but this week's extra special, super duper double rainbow live episode of the DCL Duo podcast brought to you by my Path Unwinding Travel and the great folks over at DCL Magazine, also WDW Magazine. And I am excited to announce we are getting I have information that we are getting imminently close to a launch of the DCL magazine, and I couldn't be more excited because we've got a really fun article in there. I know it's going to be in there now, so I'm really excited for everyone to read that. So head over to dcl-magazine.com to sign up for their wait list. They are a little short of what they wanted to hit. They announced on social media the other day they're at like 13,000 waitlist subscribers. They want to hit 20, but they have announced they're going to do a special launch, I think it was a float out episode or something like that.
Float out edition.
Test float, of the DCL magazine. Yeah. If they can get 5,000 subscribers when they launch, which we will have information on that pretty soon here, they get 5,000 subscribers, that will become a reality. And so let's make it a reality because they put out really good stuff. So thank you for everyone out there who has supported DCL Magazine. Again, head over to dcl-magazine.com to sign up for the wait list and stay tuned for more so you can subscribe to the magazine. But with that, we've got our other fabulous show sponsor with us tonight, Karen Shelton from My Path Unwinding Travel. Welcome, Karen. We're here to talk about a really fun topic, I think.
Hello. We are here to talk about my all-time favorite topic. Yes. So excited.
So
today was a big day. So we're going to talk right now on this show about our podcast cruise version 2.0. But stay tuned because in about 45 minutes, we're going to be talking about the itinerary release for Disney Cruise Line, the 2026 summer 2026 itinerary release. So we're gonna do is two different shows back to back. It's gonna be again the three of us, Brian, myself, and Karen. But we've got a great presentation for you today from Karen. We're gonna take questions live, and we're gonna talk about our ABD River Cruise podcast cruise.
Yeah. I mean, let's make it official. We are announcing podcast cruise version 2.0. I work in tech. So version 2.0, the DCL Duo podcast cruise is going to be an Adventures by Disney River Cruise embarking to Holland and Belgium on July 4th, 2026. So it's July 4th to 11th, 2026. For those of you listening to this show afterwards, you can head over to YouTube. We're going to have a great presentation from Karen all about the cruise, the itinerary, and everything we're going to be up to. I have to put up this comment though for you, Karen, just for you. Contacted Chelsea earlier today about booking.
I heard, Michael. I'm so glad the Andracos will be on board.
Yes. Woo-hoo! Yes. So let's dive in, Karen. Where should we start? Well,
I thought we should start by asking the duo, why did you pick this itinerary?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That answer might be less exciting than some people imagine. Because Karen knows we were fairly constrained in terms of the time frame that we could do this in, because our son here in Washington gets out of school in like mid-June.
It's kind of late June,
almost late June, and then he usually heads straight to camp about 2 to 3 weeks later around the July 4th weekend. We asked Nathan, and he was willing to defer his camp to a shorter and later session. And Sam did not want to go on the Danube again, and so this is the cruise.
Yeah. So it was a couple of things. I didn't want to do the only itinerary that actually fit in our original time constraints would have been the Danube, but it's basically the exact itinerary we did, right, except not Christmas markets, right? So it's like a summer version of the itinerary that we already did. It goes to all the same places, and they were wonderful and beautiful, but I don't want my second ABD to be the same as my first ABD, right? These are, let's be honest, these are pricey vacations to go on an Adventures by Disney River Cruise or any Adventures by Disney adventure. And so I want to make the most of it. I want it to be something different. And when we were looking at the itineraries, I'll be honest, this one struck me as being a little bit more family friendly than the new Lyon, Provence, like French. That itinerary looks wonderful, but that itinerary to me looked like a better fit for maybe adults only, even though it is kid friendly, meaning
the French are very progressive with their drinking age.
No, but then the thing that also really attracted me about this itinerary was like waffles and chocolate and bike riding and wine, and there were a lot of things, and there were some really fun kids like very kid-centric activities mixed in there. So I felt like this itinerary had a really nice balance. And I've never been to Belgium, and I've only been to Amsterdam and Holland. I've never been anywhere else in Holland. So to me, going back to Amsterdam, but getting to see other parts of Holland, getting to go to Belgium, and like I said, waffles, chocolate, wine, and windmills, cheese, right? I mean, like,
and we were committed to going back to Europe in summer 2026.
Yes,
Like we want to go back to Europe, and so and we thought, and this was our effort too. So just to maybe cap this off, I was going to say this was our effort to the first podcast cruise. We really tried to address like affordability, time, all of that sort of stuff, and we ended up taking feedback from people that were like, "I wish you'd done a longer one," and so. We said the next one, we're going to do something we want to do and invite everyone to come along. And we thought, we've talked so much about river cruising on this show. We've talked so much about ABD on this show. This is a chance for folks to come in a safe space environment with friends and friendly faces and knowledgeable people and try this out. So that's
there we go.
I got to bring up this comment from Jackie, because Jackie, we just met her at the Villas at Disneyland Hotel just this past weekend. She is a longtime listener. She's a big fan of Mushu's Palace, which was my idea for a Chinese restaurant in Disney Cruise Lane. And her comment here, I just love that she agrees with me: waffles, chocolate, and bike riding. So hi, Jackie. Absolutely. I'm glad you're watching. It was so fun meeting you.
And I talked about this on another episode with you all last year sometime, but absolutely the best waffle I ever had was in Belgium on a river cruise, and it does live up to the hype, and it tastes better when it's there than here. So
I love it. I love it.
Okay, well, let's dive in. I mean, there's so much. I don't want this to be too much of an infomercial, but I know that so many people have questions about what is Adventures by Disney? What does it mean to be on a river cruise instead of an ocean cruise? Where is this going? How's it all going to fit together? So I have a bunch of information. And let's just talk first about what a river cruise is on a river ship. They do call them river ships and not boats.
Oh, really?
And some people call them river boats, but I think the captains actually prefer ship. And apparently that's because you can still put a boat on a river ship, like, a little dinghy can get
like
on
a little,
board that.
Yeah.
So apparently that's one way of defining it. And I'll show a picture of what these river ships look like. But Adventures by Disney, let's just pause for a minute, is a separate branch of the Walt Disney Travel Company that offers guided vacations around the world. There's itineraries at Southern California that go to Disneyland, as close to home as Wyoming and Canada. And then they go over to Europe, they go to Asia, Australia, and so on. They, it's probably been a good 10 years ago now, or approximately, launched a type of Adventures by Disney vacation on river cruises. And so they fully charter the river ships that are owned and managed by AMA Waterways, which is a great river cruise line.
Yep.
They charter these boats for the exclusive use of Adventures by Disney guests during that itinerary. So when you're on board an Adventures by Disney river cruise, the ship will be an AMA Waterways ship. It will not have a Disney Cruise Line logo or a character on the back of the ship. In fact, there's no characters on board at all.
True.
This is not a theme park vacation, and it's not a Disney Cruise Line vacation. But what you do have with you is the Disney quality and the Disney trust, and that they will design an immersive, safe vacation for your family. Mm-hmm. So when you're on a ship, there's under 150 passengers. So when you think about that, compared to the smallest Disney cruise ship, this is a very intimate experience. The minimum age to sail is 4 on the family-friendly itineraries. Of course, that's what we're doing for the DCL Duo Podcast 2.0, but there are some departures that are 18 plus at other times of year that are adult exclusives. So that's another difference. You cannot bring, a 6-month-old or a 2-year-old. And that's because it's a small group and there's a lot of activity and involvement. And it's really not a good value to probably bring a little child like that on board
Yeah.
anyway.
Absolutely.
Can I
And one of the things that's unique about AMA's ships is that they do have some rooms that accommodate 3 or 4 people. Now it's a limited number, so just a warning, most river cruise ships only accommodate 2 people per cabin, and AMA Waterways is different in that way. So if you're thinking like other luxury brands like Viking is a good example, and most Americans have heard about Viking, every cabin is a 2-person or 1-person cabin, right? So this
Correct.
AMA has some cabins that are that work for 3 people and some suites that will work for 4 people. It is one thing to think about, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, that it's maybe worth it to look at 2 rooms versus a suite and things like that and do the price comparison, because the suites are obviously a more expensive class of room. But for us, for example, we'll be in a 3-person room for us and Nathan.
And I just want to underscore one thing, because I was having a conversation with someone recently, and I don't think they fully grasped what you said here, Kara, which is that 150 people, not 150 staterooms. So like
Correct.
that you will know everyone on this ship practically by the time you get off. So it's a
Right.
very intimate experience.
It's an
fabulous.
intimate experience, and it's a different experience. This is really, again, about the destination and not so much about the ship. The ship is your floating hotel. It's beautiful and it's comfortable, and we'll talk more about that. And it's family friendly. As you said, Sam, a lot of people think about river cruising as for their grandparents, or, Viking is adult only. There's really very few opportunities to sail on a river ship with families in a appropriate way that's fun for everybody, that's a vacation for everybody. And Disney nailed it. I mean, they have created such a great experience on their river cruises. And this is a great itinerary, and I'm really excited that you picked it.
Yeah, us too. Okay,
So,
what does it include, people? We want
okay,
to know.
let's talk about what's included, because
Yeah.
this is I talk about Adventures by Disney being pricey but priceless. You really, it's not just the inclusions. There's so much more, and you all have talked about that. But the main things when you think about the value of an Adventures by Disney river cruise, especially compared to an ocean cruise, is first of all, your transfers are included. So you've got to get there. Your flights, those are not included in your Adventures by Disney package. Adventures by Disney can add flights, but we'll talk about that. That may or may not be the way to go. But the base price that you see, the initial price that you pay, includes your transfers from the airport to your pre-night hotel if you have booked it with Adventures by Disney, or if you have booked the hotel that they use for the pre-night hotel, and even if you booked it independently, then to the ship, and then back to your post-night hotel if you've booked that, or back to the airport. So transfers are covered for you. The only time transfers would not be covered is if you decided to stay outside their pre or post hotels.
And to be clear, this can even be a few days before your ABD actually starts. So as long as you're going to the hotel where your ABD will start, then that transfer, you can have it 3 days earlier if you're going to the city to,
Exactly. And it is a private transfer typically. I mean, they may sometimes combine 2 families if you happen to be arriving right at the same time, but really it is a driver just for your family. So it is so nice to arrive when you land in a foreign country after a long flight and have that familiar ABD sign waiting for you.
It was super nice. Yeah.
You just know, okay, I can relax now. And I am in Europe, in a new country, yet I still have this magical Disney bubble kind of following me around a little bit. So
absolutely,
it's such a great experience.
Our driver met us at baggage claim, and another couple that was on our ABD river cruise happened to be on the same flight as us. And so we got transferred, the 5 of us got transferred to the hotel together. We happened to be both coming in, 2 days early. This was into Munich, but it was seamless and it was nice because we ended up meeting 2 fellow passengers a couple days before our sailing.
That's perfect. So all of your meals on board are included. There is plentiful food. You guys have experienced that. There is, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's snacks. Now, what you might not have experienced in your wintertime cruise is, they may do a cookout on the sun deck because it's summer. So you may have something like that. The cuisine will change based on where you're, what river you're on, where you're sailing, what country you're in. So, and because it's Adventures by Disney, they add a family-friendly kind of anytime kids menu. And it's fun because maybe they call it a kids menu, but every once in a while, everybody just might need a hamburger, right? So that's available for anybody if you don't want, to eat the more, different dining room menus each night. So also what's included is wine and beer with your meals, including sparkling wine, champagne at breakfast.
Mimosas for everyone.
Mimosas for everyone. So that's really fun. Jumping on the list a little bit, there is a daily happy hour where it's kind of an open bar in the ship's lounge. The specific time might vary from day to day because it's basically about an hour before dinner. Everybody eats dinner around the same time. There's one seating. And so the cocktail hour will be for the hour before dinner. There is a chef's table on board, and that is at no additional charge. So think of that almost as your Remy or Paulo experience, but it doesn't,
but it's not
and I don't think it's adult only, is it? It's not adult only.
It is
It's
not
for the
adult
EBD.
only. It is
Not for
not
EBD.
adult only, but the menu, I would say, is not a kid-friendly menu.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
It's a faster chef's tasting menu, though. So it is a chef's tasting menu. So it's a multi-course, but it's not as slow as what you will experience at Enchante and Remy.
The night we did it, it was, and we don't like. I want to be clear. Like, we don't know if it was because one of the things, and we may talk about this a little bit more later, but they do special activities for the kids. Some nights they'll do like a kids movie night, and they'll feed the kids separately. And that was the night that we then went to the chef's table because we knew Nathan wouldn't.
There was no way he was going to eat that menu.
Yeah,
right.
but I think the great part about it is what Karen you underscore, which is like you get on, you sign up for a night. It's like it's instead of going to the main dining, you go to the chef's table. There's no added fee for it, and
honestly, I think the menu stays the same each night at the chef's table. But on our river cruise, we did actually have the opportunity to go again. We didn't choose to, but because they had openings, not everybody wanted to, or they just had space. So, and they would have allowed that, and that's included. Those who sail concierge on Disney Cruise Line, sometimes talk about the coffee machine in the concierge lounge. That's available on board. It is included. It also has hot cocoa and all the different drinks. I like to say that an ABD river cruise is really like an entire ship of concierge because everybody gets all the same inclusions, no matter what category you're in. All of this is included for you. There is no haves and have-nots on board. Everybody gets the same experiences, regardless of if you booked that suite or if you booked the lowest level cabin.
And honestly, unlike an ocean, for ocean cruising, I sometimes do spend time in the cabin. On the river cruising, you spend time. Sleep in your cabin. You're not like hanging out in it. You're either in the lounge when you're on board and they're sailing, you're at dinner, or you're off the ship exploring the city. Like it's not like you're. So
and again, you guys were on in the winter. In the summertime, you will be on the sun deck.
Yeah, we were not on the sun deck because it was too cold.
Will be on the sun deck or on that space in the very front of the ship on the main deck. It is just beautiful. And there's enough space on there to spread out. You're never going to feel like, oh, I can't find a seat. But I'll show you some of the pictures of the ship.
And we say this in part because the rooms are quite a bit smaller than what you expect on an ocean cruise. So
Yep.
this is just a little bit of warning so don't get shocked. The rooms are quite small. So it's, it's
But
not
very
they're
very
very
comfortable
comfortable. They're very efficient and very comfortable. They're
Right.
just
and
small.
gorgeous. They're not. This
Yeah.
isn't like a motel room at sea. It's
Yeah.
not. It's nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So other inclusions include, I mean, one of the main things is that all of your excursions are included. And so it is not like, oh, I'm going to book this shore excursion and this shore excursion. There's choices in every port, but whatever you pick, that is part of your package. There's not an additional charge for any of it. So you can choose the excursion that works for you,
Mhm.
whether it be bike riding, whether it be a stroll, whether it be cheese tasting. All of the options are part of your Adventures by Disney vacation. So, we're starting to see all the value built in.
And some of them are
Why?
morning ones only, and some of your afternoon only. You could sign up for one in the morning, a different one in the afternoon. You could decide I'm going to sign up only for the morning
There's
and
some.
just
There's some full day excursions
right,
too.
and just
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
at my
And the
leisure.
value when you look at other river cruise lines, such as like, just sailing on the waterways without Adventures by Disney, they may or may not, depending on the cruise line, include an excursion. A lot of times the included excursion might just be like a walking tour or a bus tour that's like, a couple of hours. Certainly they are not including like morning and afternoon or full day options. I mean, ABD packs it in. So these are active itineraries. And the excursions, we've talked about, some of the fun things that you guys did. They're really, really well
They are.
selected, right? They curate these experiences that you might not even think to do if you were just like, oh, I'm going to go to X, Y, or Z town. They have found some really great opportunities for their guests.
Let me just pause this here for 1 second, Karen, because there's a good question that I think segues in here. Drew's saying, I know large European cruises tend to be long, exhausting days. Do you find the same to be true with river cruising? I'll give my answer, which is just it is active. I think Karen's correctly calling it. It's active. You're off the ship. You're doing something. There's always an option to opt out and just go explore the city on your own if you want a slower day. And actually, some days that is one of the sort of tour options is explore on your own. And we actually did some of that on the Christmas markets cruise. I will say it's active and it's busy. But to Karen's point about how well they plan it, I never felt like I was like exhausted at the end of the day. We always came back. I like to change for dinner. I'd change out of like the touring clothes we were in, and I'd throw on a more comfortable pair of loafers that I had after my feet were a little tired. Head to the lounge, have a drink, have dinner, see the entertainment that night, go to bed, wake up, and start again. And I always felt like energized. I was like ready to like let's do this. It's fun. So
Yeah. We were exhausted by the end, let's be honest though, because it is
yeah, it didn't help that I had the flu as well. But yes,
that's true.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah, yeah.
no.
But, they are longer days, but the days are in part what you make of them, right? So if you decide if there's options for the morning and the afternoon and you opt to do both a morning tour and an afternoon tour, obviously you're going to have a full day. Well, sometimes they'll even have an evening tour. Like, I don't know if this one does, but they're in Vienna. They take you to, an orchestra performance. There are things that are evening activities as well, occasionally that ABD offers. So you can pack your day. Obviously, just depends on what you choose to take part in. There is a question about accessible rooms. I want to just hit that right away. And the answer is generally no. So the one drawback of really any river cruise is they are not wheelchair accessible, and so generally speaking they are not known for accessibility. So there are people who might have some limitations, right? If you can't walk for long distances, you still might be able to do a river cruise, but they are not wheelchair accessible. And so the rooms are not wheelchair accessible either.
I just wanted to say one other thing about the excursions. Unlike Disney Cruise Line, you can go right now to ABD's website and see what they plan to offer as excursions
Well,
on the
they're
cruise.
examples, but yeah.
Yeah, but they tend to offer
close.
very similar things. You don't have to wake up at midnight at any point in time to pre-book stuff. Like, you will arrive. Our experience is you will land at the cruise destination. They will ensconce you in the Disney bubble, And at least for us, like the first night, they were like, "There's a Google form to fill out. Tell us what excursion you're thinking about doing." Like
we will see on this itinerary. On the other Rhine itinerary, they do have an advanced request before you depart for your excursions, so they can better plan, because there's a few experiences that have limited capacity.
Yeah.
They're all included, but I don't know how they're going to handle this, and it could, after this summer, it could change for next summer, but of course we will know and keep everybody informed.
That's actually good, because I've seen them also adjust sometimes, and like they were like in one of our stops, they were like, well, so many people signed up for this, like either can we get volunteers to move to the other one, or we need to like look at adding an additional tour. So yeah.
Absolutely. And what we found, and you may have found this too, I think you might have mentioned it, is that they can a lot of times be flexible even like that morning, like,
yes,
hey, Nathan has a friend and we really want to do this other excursion, and you can just flip it. And a lot of times they're able to accommodate.
Yes, we definitely saw people who changed their mind about excursions, as long as it wasn't like a group of 10, right? If it was like a family of 2 or maybe 4, right? They could usually make that adjustment. But if it was a larger group, then it was
right.
And
by the way, let's just say this: you guys are sailing as the DCL Duo podcast cruise, but everybody can decide their excursions.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to do the same excursions as the group. There's flexibility for you to choose which ones you want to do with your, traveling companions.
Yep.
So,
excellent point.
All right,
so
a couple of
Wi-Fi, right? Yeah.
Wi-Fi. I mean, Wi-Fi. It's good Wi-Fi. In fact, on the Waterways, I was just at a conference, and they have shared that they spend more on Wi-Fi than they do on fuel. So take that for what it's worth, but they are proud of the investments that they have made in their internet. And it is all included. And another great one is all of your gratuities. You don't have to tip your driver in the transfer. You don't have to tip the housekeeper in your hotel room. If you're, you don't have to tip the dining team, the housekeeping team, or the adventure guides, which are part of the team that will host you and entertain you and experience with, all the destination with you. Different from land adventures with Adventures by Disney, your adventure guide gratuities are included. So you do not have to do any cash or Venmos or anything at the end of the week on board. All of that is taken care of. It's really the most inclusive Disney vacation out there.
Yeah, for sure.
I love this question. What are the chances you get Danny again, Linda? We don't know. It'll be up to how ABD decides to schedule Danny, but stay tuned, because Danny is coming on our show very, very soon.
Maybe we'll be able to ask him about his schedule.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
I don't know that he'll know 2026.
Yeah, he might not know yet.
Yeah, that's true.
But all right, so let's just kind of get a little bit more visualization of what a river ship looks like. That is the Amistella, which is the ship that you will be sailing on. And you can see that, I don't know if you guys can see my pointer here. Yep. There are basically 3 levels for passenger cabins. This bottom level here, where you see these porthole type windows, that is sometimes called the swan view rooms, because they are, kind of at the water level.
Yeah, like your head's peeking out of the water like a swan.
Right. So there's no inside cabins. Every cabin has at least a window. And, so you get the sunlight. There is no concern about motion. You're on a river. You're just floating. It's still. So you don't have to worry about, too high, too low, midship. But so down here in the rear is the lowest level. These mid-deck cabins on the second deck, there's a combination of, I'll show you more about these French balcony cabins and double balcony cabins, and I'll show you more about what those are. Same on this top deck, have more balcony cabins. Down here at the lower level in the front of the ship is the dining room. This middle section here in the middle deck in the front of the ship is a big lounge area, and that's where all the entertainment happens. That's where a bar area happens. This is a great seating area in the front of the ship. And then the whole top deck is the sun deck. And as I said, there might be a cookout on it. There's lots of shade and sun. Sometimes they'll narrate what you're seeing as you're going by. And a perk of on the waterway ships in this case is that there's even a pool. So that is really fun for everybody in the summer. This picture probably makes it look a bit bigger than it really is, but the kids can have fun, and the adventure guides oftentimes will host something, like they might even host the first night get together for the kids up at the pool. So kind of like a pool party situation.
Can you, Karen, can you just address, you mentioned like we had someone reach out and ask about like, oh, if I book a room in the aft, am I going to feel a bunch of motion or am I going to feel the engines? And like, I didn't feel a thing the entire time we were on the ship. So like, is it fair to
Correct.
say you're just, I mean, these are not cruise ship engines on this thing. You're not going to feel thrusters going to the dock. It is
No,
basically like you're in a hotel and you wake up and you're someplace
Yeah.
else.
There
and you're
is no,
floating.
you guys know, I've talked about I get motion sick on small boats. This is not a ship you will get motion sick on. You will not even know that you are floating most of the time.
Yeah, it is a, just a smooth experience. You'll see other ships floating by. The rivers are, narrow enough to where you'll see, scenery on both sides. I don't know how many locks you might go through on this itinerary, but going through the locks to me is like a super, super cool experience. And again, that's not motion, but you're, into the lock and the ship just rises up or comes down depending on the water levels and which direction you're going on the river. So really your location on the ship, and this is such a short walk between the very back of the ship and the very front of the ship. So I don't think there's any like really unfavorable stateroom. I would be very happy in a Swan View room versus staying home. So and and Sam knows this about me now. I'm a little bougie. There's some things that I won't do,
True.
but I will do.
Yeah, but honestly, any room on the ship is a great room. There's not, there are obviously suites that are bigger, but it's not a necessity at all. And as Karen mentioned at the beginning, there are no different classes on this ship. Everyone is the same class. So you won't know if somebody's staying in a suite versus staying in one of those swan rooms versus staying like us in one of the category, I think it's AA rooms, which is a 3-person room, right? Like there is literally no difference, no between, those kinds of things.
What your access is, what your priority is, nothing. There's no, there's none of that. I mean, at some point we can get through some of the nitty gritty of like boarding and all that. Everything is just so different and chill compared to a big ocean liner. But I threw in some other pictures just so you can see, there's not all the bells and whistles like a big Disney ship. Of course not. It's so much smaller, but there is a gym. Here's a picture of the gym. We'll get to dining in a minute. There is a small, they call it a spa. It's basically a massage room, right? So they do have a masseuse on board. She might also double as the housekeeper or a dining staff, but you can schedule a massage. I think there's a small beauty salon on board too, where you can get, your hair done or whatever. So there, there's not a lot of amenities, but there are a few. We started talking, you mentioned dining, and this is just some pictures from my river cruise. Great cocktails, great fine dining, but also, a little Mickey touch. They don't do this on a regular on a waterways cruise. You don't get the, Mickey Uncrustables.
We should say most of the itinerary, they serve breakfast every morning in the lounge, or sorry, in the restaurant. I think they have a little something in the lounge.
They have a continental, continental
get up
breakfast in the lounge versus sit down in the dining room. Sorry.
If you're not on a full day excursion, you get lunch on board the ship, or we did a few days where we got lunch in the city we were in because we wanted to try the local food, and then there's dinner every night, and then there's usually snacks around kind of the cocktail happy hour time in the lounge, and so the food is all delicious, and Ama's won awards for its food. So like this is a cut above main dining on Disney Cruise.
Right. Because they're only cooking for 150 people. They have a small galley, but they're, a mighty skilled culinary team. This is a picture of the dining room. Another difference from a traditional cruise line is that it is open seating. You do not reserve your table at all. You can change who you sit with from night to night. So, which I found really fun. If you want to have just your family one night, that's completely fine. If you find a group of 10, there's some large tables. There's some private rooms that sometimes big groups kind of grab, or sometimes the kids or the teenagers take over because they all want to sit together. So, and it can change from night to night. You're not assigned a table. Everybody shows up for dinner around the same time. They'll tell you what that time is. You don't have to be like, on the dot, but it's usually, I think people tend to show up within 10 to 15 minutes of the time that they announce dinner. And lunch tends to be a little bit more open seating, and breakfast more open seating. It's a range, from, it might be 7:30 to 9, just come anytime.
Right.
For breakfast and lunch, they typically will have buffet options of items already prepared that you can, grab, but also menu options as well. And you can do both. So the buffet is kind of set up in that middle of the dining room, but then you can order from the menu as well.
And
so
the menus,
lots of options.
and the menus change daily. So like,
Yeah.
this is not, you're not eating the same food every night, or
Although
even for lunch.
breakfast is the same every day.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing I want to jump in and say for dinner would be our goal that we would, whoever comes with us, we would try to rotate who we eat with. Just to be clear, like it would be our goal that we get to eat with as many guests from the group as possible throughout the course of the week-long cruise.
And that would be amazing, and so doable, right? It's so doable, and a lot less complicated than the Disney Cruise Line. So let's jump into. I saw some quick questions. Yes, the spa is the one thing that's an additional charge if you schedule a massage. Laundry is very reasonable. There is no self-service laundry, but if you send laundry out, it's very reasonable, and that's an additional charge. Let's look at the itinerary. So where are you going? This is a cool river cruise itinerary because it is round trip Amsterdam. Many river cruises start in one place and end in another. So oftentimes we see Amsterdam to Basel as a Rhine itinerary. This one is a little bit different, going through some different waterways, and it does this, cool figure 8 here. So it starts out in Amsterdam, goes down through Rotterdam, Bruges, Brussels, Antwerp, and back to Amsterdam. I feel like I'm glad you picked this itinerary because I know that there's a lot of folks that may have never done anything like this. And the idea of doing what's called an open jaw flight, where you're flying into one city and out of another, might just add to the anxiety. We could handle all that, but having round trip Amsterdam
also adds to the expense of your flights. So
it can sometimes not, but Amsterdam is a great city, so this gives you twice the opportunity to spend more time in it before or after, depending on your schedule, or both. And Amsterdam, is a great airport too. So really, really cool itinerary. And I also just think where it's situated, kind of in Northern Europe, hopefully the weather will be gorgeous.
Yes, absolutely. It shouldn't be as hot as like the Med, and of course it's early July, so it should be nice
Tracy
weather.
noted 68 to 71 is the average temperature, so she's bringing her winter coat. So there you go.
Right.
And we did have a question about adult or teenage kids. They will not feel out of place. Like, in fact, on our river cruise that we did, there were, I think, only 12 kids that were like 12 and under or 13 and under. And so the majority of the quote unquote kids were teenagers or young adults. And so this is definitely multi-generational. Cruising is very common. You will see people who travel adults only. You will see people who travel grandparents, parents, and older children, grandparents, parents, younger children. You'll see everything.
Absolutely.
And I would say,
And that's what I saw. Yeah.
Skews older kids though, not as
Yeah.
parents say, because they don't take toddlers basically.
Right. And because a lot of people think, they want their kids to be a little older before they take that long of a flight and have that, long of an itinerary. And again, this is, I love to remind people, Mickey Mouse will not be on board. There will not be any Disney characters on this experience. The only time you might see a Disney character is if they have a movie night or if they pixie dust you with some kind of little Disney themed treasure. So there's Disney touches, but there's not Disney characters. They really want this experience to be about the finding the magic in the real world. I love that expression.
Mhm.
And they will, they may tell some stories and tie-ins to, great Disney movies and characters throughout the years, but they're not going to like bring them onto the ship.
Yeah. And there are kids activities. There's not a kids club. There will be evenings that have kids activities, and they'll have like a couple of nights where the kids will eat in the lounge, kind of buffet hamburger style, and do some kind of kids activity to give the adults a little bit of a break from their children. But there isn't like a kids club that you check your kids in and out of. So kids who can eat independently, that's the kind of situation you're looking at. But
Right.
they'll do some of the excursions. They might also have sort of a kids scavenger hunt or something like that while the adults are doing something that the kids might find boring. Sorry, Cynthia, there
No
are
Mickey
no
bars.
Mickey bars on
No
board.
Mickey bars.
Plenty of
No,
dessert.
I want to just say that the food is provided by AMA Waterways, the culinary team, the bar, all of that is AMA Waterways. Disney is kind of layering their programming and their adventure guides onto the ship. So the staff and AMA goes above and beyond to, add the family friendly menus and to, add the little Mickey Mouse shaped sandwiches, but they're not going to source things like Mickey bars, unfortunately. Um, but similar to a cruise ship, you can eat as much as you want at dinner. You can order a couple things. They're excellent with allergies. Europe in general, we have learned over the last few years, is really, really great with allergies. I think they're just ahead of us versus here in the States. So, and food just always tastes better, right, in Europe? um, but let's go through the itinerary. We can send you a detailed itinerary with all the excursions. I think, we could be here another hour if we go into everything. But
Yeah, we're gonna go super fast, super high level on the itinerary, guys, because we
super
got
fast and high level. So we're
yeah.
starting out in Amsterdam. This is a great place to do to get there early or to stay late. Beautiful walking city, great food. I, was tremendously moved to go see the Anne Frank house when I was there last. There's a cool graffiti museum. There's just so many things to do in Amsterdam. Great city. And you'll get to experience that. Day 2, you're in Utrecht. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but more canals, more castles, scavenger hunts for the kids. There's time that you'll be scenic sailing. There's a bike ride option in this stop and in several others, which is also really great, and also a distinction from some other river cruise lines that they have the option for bikes, which is really awesome. Let's see. Here's a picture of biking. Can you imagine just biking
Biking by the
through
windmills. I love it.
by the windmills? Isn't that incredible? Day 3, you're in Kinderjik and Rotterdam.
This is a family-friendly show, Karen. Watch it there.
Oh boy. Look at these cool boats. I just love the Netherlands for all these classic boats juxtaposed with that modern architecture. I just think it's so cool to see all these things side by side. This is another day where there's a windmill bike ride available. There's village tours. There's a city market tour. Anytime there's like a food tour, sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when we go through to day 4, we are in Ghent, which is you have an opportunity to go to Bruges from Ghent, which is in Belgium. Super, super beautiful. And this is a great stop to have that Belgian waffle As you're nibbling through Ghent, there is a food tour. You can get beer, waffles, cheese, all in one afternoon. Here we go. Oh, and Belgium,
Fries.
Belgium
Fries and beer.
fries
You
Yeah.
had me
and
at fries and
beer.
beer.
And is there mayonnaise in that photo? I mean, that's the proper way to have fries with
I'll pass
mayonnaise.
on the mayonnaise, but
Oh, come
I'll take the
on.
fries. Yeah.
So, yes. So, okay. And of course,
Chocolate.
Belgium chocolate. We gotta get some of that in. And there's plenty of places to stop and shop. And one of the things that I want to point out is that many of these stops, you will literally walk off the river ship and be like right in the heart of the town or very close to town. You might take an excursion that's a little further out, but there's so much opportunity right where you are. So, after your excursion, or you'll have time to just really, again, kind of immerse yourself in the local destination. It's a lot different from a cruise ship when you're porting in Civitavecchia and then need to drive an hour and a half to get into Rome. You're much closer. As they say, the rivers are the highways of Europe. So, day 5, we are in Brussels. Chocolate and candy making, a comic book tour. I don't know what the connection is to comic books in Belgium.
I saw that. That looked cool, actually. Yeah.
And another beer and nibbles walking tour. That sounds amazing. I would do that any day and every day. Day 6 is Antwerp, which has more, exploring the city, doing a printing workshop, more options for Belgian chocolate waffles and beer. There's not going to be any shortage of that. And then your last day, you have the opportunity to go to Delft with the famous Delft tiles, and do some hands-on experiences at Royal Delft, and also a cheese farm and Gouda tour. So, this is very, very high level.
It's good.
But
It's Gouda. It's good.
it's Gouda. And literally, the cheese in the Netherlands is all that. It is so good. Definitely bring some home if you can. If you're a cheese lover like I am, I'm sure you will have incredible cheese as part of like the spreads on the ship. And they will bring it on locally, and you'll get to try all different kinds of things. So, want to do a quick overview. We mentioned what the rooms, how the rooms are on a river ship. This is some photos of it. Small and efficient is the name of the game. When we talk about balconies, you saw on the outside pictures, a lot of the rooms have what they call French balconies, but truly it is just like a sliding window. So these are 2 chairs inside the cabin, and then the windows slide open and you have fresh air, but it is not something that you step outside on. However, I'll come back to this in a minute. This room shows you a combination of a French balcony, which is over here on the right side with these 2 chairs. That would just be like a window that opens, and a true balcony that has a door that you can actually sit outside here with 2 chairs. It's small, but you can sit outside. It is lovely.
For those that are a party of 3, I was just going to say, this is the room that accommodates the 3rd person, but they put a chair in that little nook there that then folds out as like something approaching
a cot.
twin. Yeah.
It's more of a cot than a twin size bed. So I would say it is for a little person, meaning a child. So the 3rd person in your room has got to be a child, or you're going to be looking at a second room.
And while we're on the topic of rooms, there was a question. There's 2 questions. One is coming from Craig here. For a family of 4, would you recommend a suite or a connecting room? And then someone else was asking, how do single parties work with booking and cost?
Right. Great questions. So Disney, Adventures by Disney on Ama Waterways, part of the reason that it's such a successful relationship is that they are really the only river cruise line that has connecting rooms and that has the ability to connect like a triple with a double for families of 5, for example. There are very few. If you look at this deck map, deck plan, there's 2 sets here on the violin deck. These are doubles connecting with doubles. And there is a set here that I believe are doubles connecting with doubles. And then here, the pink and the green are triples connecting with doubles. And we know that's a triple because there's a little triangle there. So if connecting rooms is a priority, we need to book early and lock that in because there's very few. That being said, I have found that because of the intimacy on the ship, many families do feel comfortable not just being next door or across the hall. We have to technically put 1 adult in every room. But if you feel comfortable, that's going to be based on your own situation. Many families just feel like it's just the same as being at home in your bedroom and your kids down the hall from you. It's really feels like we talked about this intimacy. It's, doesn't it feel more homey like?
Yes.
So a lot of families realize that it's fine to not have that interior connecting door, but you have to know your family and decide how you want to do that.
And what about the singles? Are you paying double occupancy price?
So we have to call to see the exact what's called a single supplement. There is a single supplement, unfortunately, on this cruise. On the Sun Adventures by Disney, there are a couple of solo cabins that don't have a solo supplement. Oftentimes, those traveling solo pay close to double the cost because Disney would rather, fill that room. There might be, so we'll have to call and find out how that works for your situation, depending on what stateroom you would book.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
And by the way, the lighting is not photoshopped. Actually, there is really good lighting.
Yeah, the
Jackie's
rooms are
comment.
the rooms are gorgeous.
The rooms are really pretty. They're just very small. I warn people of that just because if Disney Cruise Line rooms are actually quite big in the cruise industry. So if you're comparing Disney Cruise Line room to a river cruise room, it's going to be a lot smaller.
And the other warning I'll give is you want to pack reasonably efficiently. The rooms don't have like they didn't have a ton of storage, at least on the Ama Viola. There was plenty for what we brought. And getting our suitcases kind of under the bed was a little bit of a challenge, but it happened. So this isn't like drag as many suitcases as you want on board the ship because there's just simply not enough room in your stateroom to store it all.
But
I do want to point out one difference that may be helpful for some people is that on the ship, we have beds that can look like this as a queen, basically. But you see, these beds can be separated. You see that line? These beds can be made up as 2 twins, and they move the nightstand in between the beds. So if you have 2, people, 2 kids, whatever, they don't have to share a bed.
That's a really good point. Yeah, because that's not
also, you see that this is a Mac, and it serves as a computer and your television and your Wi-Fi. There's also refrigerators. There's bottled water included. As I mentioned to somebody that emailed me earlier this week, it may be that they go to reusable water bottles or glass. A lot of cruise lines are doing that, but it's all included. They'll have things like umbrellas waiting for you. There's just lots of little details.
And you get the most exclusive backpack ever mailed to your house before you even set foot
There's
out
a
the door.
pre-departure gift. We'll see what it is for 2026. But yeah, I've heard that they may have stopped the water bottles. We'll see. They usually send out water bottles, backpacks. We'll see, what's in the rotation. Disney uses the Movenpick Hotel in Amsterdam. I talked about hotel options because one of the things that we do as your travel advisor is help you say, do you want to stay at the Movenpick? Or do you want to stay at maybe the classic Hotel Pulitzer? Or do you want to stay, there's so many different options, and it may depend on what time you're coming in, how far in advance, what kind of room you want, what kind of amenities. So all different options there, and we can help you sort through that. And now, as we, so much information, we're here to answer all your questions, but want to talk some of the nitty gritty.
Mm-hmm.
Disney requires a deposit of 10% of your cruise fare. Now, you might have seen that there's early booking discounts. In order to lock in the early booking discount, you have to pay your deposit. They will not apply that discount until your credit card is in hand. And the number of early booking discounts is limited, and they will not tell me how many
Of course.
we have. We are still working on some other things that might help, but we will update you if there's any changes to how we're going to approach the group. But these are the traditional terms for any Adventures by Disney trip. They're ABDs, they are not mine. Your deposit of 10% is based just on the cruise fare. If you add a pre or post night, you're not paying deposit on that, and you can take it off or, remove it without penalty up until final payment. After 14 days, your deposit becomes non-refundable. And the only thing to do at that point is either file an insurance claim if you have one, and hopefully you have insurance, or to move the deposit to any other available adventure. You can only move the deposit prior to final payment, and any promos that Disney has will not apply.
And I think that ABD limits you to only changing once. I don't think you can change
That's
it
correct.
times. Yeah.
You could not continue to bump it. I mean, during COVID, there were different sets of rules. They have gotten back to being tighter. You can move the deposit one time only. Final payment is 120 days prior to departure. At that time, you will be paying in full for any pre or post nights due with Adventures by Disney. We'll talk about travel insurance options, because depending on who's in your family, how old they are, what else you're doing on your vacation, your insurance through Adventures by Disney may be better, or it may be better to work with our third party. And as I said, pre and post nights are paid at final payment. So that is the gist. We've talked about this before. It's pricey but priceless. Bookings start tomorrow, and prices may change even by Monday. ABD is not open on the weekends.
And to be clear, it only opens tomorrow for people who have done three or more prior adventures. So we, the DCL duo, we've only done one prior adventure. So our booking day is on Monday, not tomorrow. So we're in the second group of booking. Most of you watching and joining us, if you have probably never been on an ABD. And so you will be in Tuesday would be your booking day.
Right. And that's because you've been on a Disney cruise. You have that advantage. So it's still a little bit of an advantage above never done anything. But let's talk a little bit about, I've had a bunch of questions like, oh my gosh, this might be my first time out of the country, and what can you help with? And the answer is, we are here for you door to door. And I mean, literally, we can help you get to the airport even if you want that. So we have done that for folks as well, to your local airport. But we will review with you that your passport is in order. There are new requirements for traveling to Europe in terms of getting electronic authorizations. When those get up and running, we will walk you through those steps. We can assist with flights if you want. If you don't, that's okay too. But we can guide you. When do you need to get in? What's the airport? How, what's the best routing? We can help you with your pre and post river cruise plans. As we said, you can book the hotel through Adventures by Disney. You could book it independently. You might say, you know what, I'm going to already be in Europe. I'd like to go see something else completely outside of Amsterdam. We can put all those options together. We can guide you through experiences in Amsterdam during your free time, even have restaurant recommendations. So we can help with all of those things. We talked about travel insurance. We can talk about the different excursion selections. We can dig deep with Adventures by Disney to find out more information about it, if it's the right thing for you and your family. We can talk about special needs and all of your questions. So this is the type of trip. Adventures by Disney is, in a way, an easy trip, but it's also one that you want an expert and an advocate on your side. We talk to ABD all the time. I know the people that answer the phone and they know me. They're amazing. And we're really proud of our relationship with them. So we are so excited that DCL Duo has chosen Adventures by Disney for their vacation. And here you see all of our contact information. So let's do this.
Yeah.
We couldn't be more excited. I mean, just going through this presentation, I'm getting excited.
I'm getting more excited.
We actually had a guest we recorded with recently who I think is doing this itinerary this summer, and we've asked them to come back and talk to us about what they did, because we learned so much from a prior guest doing the river market, the Christmas markets cruise, about the excursions and things that we should target. So this is going to be a fun trip. We really want as many of you to sail with us as want to come. I can't stress enough something that Karen said, which is please let her know very soon if you want to go on this trip, because these ABDs do book up. We want you to take advantage of as many of the discounts as remain available. So please let her know soon. I'll read it out for our listeners here. You can email Karen at dclduo@mypathunwinding.com, or you can reach out over at mypathunwinding.com/DCLduo. Whatever you do when you contact Karen, let her know you're interested in the podcast cruise, so she knows that that's what you want to do with us. And we can't be more excited. We can't be more excited to go on this adventure with all of you. And
there's no dress code, to answer Bridget's question.
Yes, Bridget's question. No dress code.
Okay.
There's no dress code. There are on other river cruises and on AMA on other sailings, but not on an ABD sailing on AMA. There is no dress code. So come as you are. You can wear sweatpants to dinner if you want. People
wear
do.
Sweatpants.
I mean,
you can wear your ears. I mean, like I said, there's no characters, but it's a ship full of Disney fans. So
exactly. And some people like to dress nicer for dinner. Other people dress in just whatever they wore touring for the day. Some people just like to change out of their sweaty clothes from touring. It does, come as you are. It's a very casual place. You'll see. Yeah.
All right. With that, we're running like 20 minutes behind for our next show with Karen. So we're going to say goodnight here and head over and start talking about Disney Cruise Line itineraries on our other show. Thank you, all of you out there, for listening, for watching. And
for those watching live, it will probably take us 2 minutes to jump over to the other link. So just bear with us.
Yes, but come over there, watch all about the DCL itinerary release. Reach out to Karen. Let her know if you want to book this cruise, because we want as many of you to come as possible, and we're super excited about it. With that, thanks, everybody. Good night out there. And
have a good night, everybody.
See you in minutes.